everybody. I want to welcome you to another episode of Reach. And the Autism Society of Florida is super, super excited to introduce you to a changeover that we're making. We don't want our podcast to be a bunch of talking heads, such as myself. And we want to make sure that the voices that you guys hear and benefit from are those with autism. Because we can tell you that as an organization, that's how we get all of our guidance. That is how, well, those are the people that really keep us on the right track. And we really count upon the self-advocates that are on our board and that we interact with in the community to really be our North Star. I think that far too often, many organizations sort of get a little off kilter from why they do the work that they do. And we want to really, ensure that we don't do that. And if we do that, then we want to self-correct, right? So we want to put ourselves back in a better space. So I'm really thrilled to let you guys know that this is going to be the last time that I will be involved. And we're going to have truly incredible individuals that are going to come on, share information with you about a variety of topics, things that are really important to people with autism, to the families who love them, to the providers, the agencies out there who we hope are going to be supportive of those with autism and help them just find better quality of life and support them along their path, the one that they choose, and not the one that are chosen by other people instead of themselves. So with that, I am honored to introduce you guys to Conrad Blaze. Conrad is a board member of the Autism Society of Florida, and he is going to bring so much great wealth and information to you guys that I'm sure you are going to be thrilled. So Conrad, it is so good to have you here doing this.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to working on this podcast and bringing information and awareness and acceptance to everybody.
Yeah. And so with that, on this introductory sort of episode, we are going to be talking about that, right? We're going to be talking about acceptance versus awareness. So Conrad, I'm going to have you take it away.
Okay. First of all, to further introduce myself, I'm a performing arts major up at Savannah College of Art and Design, and I'm working on actually graduating this summer and going to be off to jolly old England soon for grad school. So today's conversation is awareness versus acceptance. And recent news, the White House has announced that we are transitioning over to April being Autism Acceptance Month versus Autism Awareness Month. And the key question right now is, what does that really mean? So we've been talking autism awareness for decades. And autism awareness, or awareness about anything in particular, usually denotes that, oh, something about that, whether it's a person, place, thing, is different, it's unique. And because those differences are pointed out, it creates distance, it creates isolation, creates this unnecessary bias and a box that everybody who falls within that category should fit in that box. So someone like me who technically falls under Asperger's with DSM-4 or autism with DSM-5, I don't necessarily fit within that box, the traditional box of, say, Rain Man. What the movement for acceptance is looking forward to doing is changing the conversation. It's not about what is necessarily different, but what commonalities do we share, and how can we work together to help one another succeed? Moving towards a greater integration of society.
So when we talk about the benefits of acceptance, so those were some of them. Can you think of anything that's more on even a smaller scale, like maybe inside of a classroom, say, right? So not the whole global community, but maybe just a group of people, a job site, or in a classroom where, how could a teacher or a boss even look a little bit differently versus, with the two? So am I going to be aware of you, or am I going to be accepting of you?
Yeah, if you're accepting of, say, the student or the worker, you're going to acknowledge their limitations. It's not to point them out. It's acknowledging the fact that there are signs where someone may have hit those limits, like for me, social limitations where I might have it like start shaking and stuff. And at that point, a boss would be, okay, you need to go take a break. And because sometimes I might not be aware of it. And it's beneficial, it's helpful, and it's not to point it out, it's just to quick swoop in, step in, give a break, and then let me go back to work, and I'm usually good. It's the other thing is to acknowledge strengths. So not to be afraid of the strengths or the unique way various minds work, but to arguably be in awe of it, to want to learn more, to question, not in a negative way, but out of a curiosity. And just having that conversation, and even if they're willing to talk, go up to them and ask, like, how are you doing? What's it like for you to go through a day? Just those conversations can foster understanding, cooperation, and maybe strong friendships of people looking out for each other.
Yeah, I find that a lot of times the more work I do with it started where I really started to kind of discover this was in employment opportunities for people on the spectrum. But now that I've kind of seen the light there, I see it sort of everywhere. And what I think a lot of it is fear. And it's very depressing to think that people are so fearful of maybe the fear is not understanding what to say or what to do. So their fear holds them back. And then that prevents a possible relationship of happening between that person and a person with autism. And so trying to break down some of those barriers so that the overall community, so whether it is a potential job site or inclusive education, because that too, teachers are afraid. General education teachers think, oh, I won't be able to educate this student. I won't know what to do, until they push back against having them in their classroom. And then, I mean, the significance of unemployment in people with autism is tremendous. And they could be very highly skilled, but yet it's still so difficult to find
Yeah,
employment.
a lot of us work very well in bursts. Like we can go, 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 go. We'll break down a little bit, then go, 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 go again. For me, like I'm on the side of it where I'm extremely detail oriented, where I can nitpick and find errors in things and help correct things and like, hey, maybe we should do something this way instead of like this, so it might be more efficient. Like it's critical thinking, problem solving, and just noticing these little things. And it's that outside of the box neurodivergent thinking that can make society as a whole progress further. There's a good quote from a movie. It's mankind tends to fear what it doesn't understand. And I've come across this in the classroom myself, like even for a college level. Like there's a movie, Autism Goes to College, and the statistics for the number of schools that actually have required training for professors for working with neurodivergent individuals is quite abysmal. It's improving, but it's still quite abysmal. And when going through acting as a neurodiverse individual who sometimes has trouble recognizing body language and like verbal cues and tone of voice sometimes, but like I've significantly improved through these studies, but it's coming up to teachers and actually bringing awareness to them. Like I had one amazing professor because he looked at my accommodations like having trouble understanding figures of speech. I've never seen this before. Can you tell me more? And it's that curiosity that bolstered a wonderful relationship with this professor. He was just absolutely amazing to be willing to work with me on that. I have had another professor with period acting that also went out of his way to work with me and come up with a different way for me to approach Shakespeare that worked very well for me from a very analytical point of view. We need more professors like these two wonderful gentlemen that are willing to go out of their way to go, I've never seen this before, but how can I help you? Because it's those great teachers that can teach something many different ways. Because if you stick within the same one box fits all routine of teaching, there's a lot of people that get left out.
My son is 29, and years ago, I was really very fortunate to meet one of those really good educators. And that was her thing is, teachers, she would say, teachers have to get out of their own way and they have to get outside of the box that their own education put them inside, right? Because the way that they were educated was, where's the box? We're going to put all the kids in this box. We're going to teach inside the box. So, she was very wise, and that's really how she approached, how to help her students become the people that they were meant to be, was getting out of their way and recognizing what their strengths were. Yes, where some of their challenges were too. So she could work, help them work on those, but really about strengths. And I think that that's really what the acceptance part really seems to do the most, is it really shines the light more on what the person can do than what they can't.
Absolutely.
So what do you think can be done to create better acceptance?
So there's a really wonderful movement going on right now that has started hitting the arts, where people are starting to put on shows that are award-winning shows to bring awareness and like to understanding of the world that we actually live in, to foster that understanding through art. Because you tell someone, say, you go in a room and this echo will disorient me a little bit. And you tell someone that and they're like, what? What does that mean? Because I don't experience this. So to be able to convey something like that through art, whether it be a performance, whether it be illustration, movies, there's a movement going on, and it's arguably a way to create dialogue, to show people, hey, we exist, we have these things that we deal with, but at the same time, we still persevere through it, and we can perform, we can sing, dance, memorize lines, act, change our voices, and most importantly, have fun doing it. Regarding workplaces, my experience, my biggest experience regarding workplaces has not so much always in the workplace itself, so much as like the intake of it. There's a huge problem with applying for like even regular jobs where they look for specific personality types, where they just, okay, are you able to converse very well? Are you like cheery? Are you able to talk to customers and smile? And sometimes, like me being honest, I'm like, today, not so much. Tomorrow, sure. I'm good to go. I'm happy, cheerful. I can happily answer those questions how you want me to. But it's those little barriers, and reading through these little questionnaires and taking everything so literally and so analytically that I overthink and will get the answers outside the box that they expect. And because of that, my job applications would get rejected or not even flagged as even possible. And that little barrier alone is troublesome. Granted, I've had many jobs over the years, I admit, and I've gotten them. I've done very well, to the point where I've been offered managerial positions as well.
Think about like family and friends and how autism acceptance sort of relates to those relationships.
So that's a long conversation for sure. For me, being late diagnosed, it was a long road to get some of my family members to be on board with the fact that I was diagnosed with Asperger's/autism, and what that really means, how I process the world, and why I behaved the way I did for so long, but at the same time, why my strengths are so honed in specific areas. Explaining like, okay, now that I got my diagnosis late in life, now I've got to go, okay, so now I got 30 plus years of life to go through and go, well, that was autism. That was autism. Oh, that was totally autism, and it's hilarious. It's just finding those things, and like, yeah, and it teaches one to accept oneself too, and then teach others and go, Okay, so now every time you tell me like these weird sayings to try and get me to feel better, please stop. I don't understand them. They don't make sense to me. In more arguably quote unquote severe cases, then it might be beneficial to get that diagnosis to get additional supports that you might need to find your way through life and be able to have a successful, happy life. Where someone more on the other end of it, where the main thing is it would just breed some understanding and just make you, if you're willing to take a step back and just retrospectively look at things and go, okay, if this is true, this is what I'm seeing, and just evaluating how you are really experiencing the world. And if this is like, if you go outside and you're like covering your eyes all the time where everybody else around you is just walking normally because the sun doesn't bother them, then like there's a light sensitivity there that you might want to question. Like that's something I grew up with where like I'm doing this walking outside in the parking lot and I've got my parents looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's bright. I'm the only one experiencing this, but it's bright. It's just those little nuances that you can go and take care to learn to self-care for yourself too. And it's that self-care, even in a workplace, that allows you to succeed even better. Like if you work in a extremely noisy environment and you have a sensitivity to it, you can go out of your way and buy little earplugs to drown out some of that noise. So when you go home, you're not like shaking and sweating because your body's nervous system has been fried from all that exposure. Also, it creates conversations. Like you can literally go, now you understand why like someone might have made a sarcastic joke and you're like, were you serious? Or were you not? And you have a justification for why to question it. And instead of being, okay, everybody's laughing, I can laugh with them and hopefully I'm not wrong in doing this. So then there's this, oh my God, what am I doing? And it creates this social anxiety that you don't need. You can literally just go, hold on, people. Can you explain that? Okay, continue the conversation. It creates that better integration instead of just feeling like an anomaly. It is a very hard path to go through. I've done it. And when you come out through it, though, you're all the better for it.